Man, before I start and really get into today's topic, I want to say rest in peace to every single soul lost behind prison walls this year in 2025. It's been a different type of year. And if you know, like I know, if you're paying attention to what's really going beyond the wall, not just the occasional story that gets through, because so many are swept under the rug, then you know that the numbers are going up when it comes to homicides and other things. You look at places like Georgia Department of Corrections when full on wars are popping off. You look at places like Nevada, Oregon, a state you probably don't think about all the time. Shout out to Oregon, though, where they've got issues behind the wall, people losing their lives, a certain number just in the month of December, right? You look at other states like Cali, Texas, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida. I can keep going on and on and on. If you know, like I know, and you're outside on this side of things, man, I want to say I'm glad you're here because so many of us didn't make it home. I had a buddy of mine 2 days left before he went home. He didn't make it. Still to this day, I'll never know the true reason. I only went by what I heard, what I assumed, but I'll never know the truth. But I know this: too many are losing their lives for pointless reasons, for things that hold no value, and it's happening behind the wall. Can you imagine taking your last moments of your life behind barbed wire fence, behind concrete walls, surrounded by nothing that resembles love, care? This is the reality for certain individuals. And though the numbers are jumping off here and there, tonight we're talking about the Commonwealth of Virginia, where since 2023, there have been seven, yes, homicides, unnatural deaths that have occurred, and the numbers have gone up. That may not seem as daunting as some states, but this is still a cause for alarm, and it reflects what's going on nationwide. In this situation, what you're going to see, or this news story, it's going to list a bunch of different problems that reflect what's going on throughout the prison system throughout the country. And this is just one story that I'm getting ready to highlight, but nonetheless, this one hits home because they're talking about an incident that occurred at Greensville Correctional Center. Greensville Correctional Center is a prison that I spent 3 years of my 16 years, 11 months at, a little bit over 3 years. And I can tell you, though I was on a level 4 twice, this prison was the worst by far. It was no man's land. If you had a medical situation, if you had a need with legal paperwork, etc., the staff there, they just did not care. Good luck. You better try to get up off there. You couldn't get your property. There was a whole bunch of stuff that was going on that was just crazy, man. Do you understand what I'm saying? Nonetheless, it's a place I will never forget. And here's a side note about this place. The address, 901 Corrections Way. It's also the place where they have executions at in the Commonwealth of Virginia at the chamber. Guess what time they do the executions? 9:01 p.m. What a coinky dink. And let me tell you something about those days when you know somebody's scheduled to lose their life up there via the state or the Commonwealth, it's extremely dark. Prison is already a dark place. There's always a cloud hanging over. But this prison, there's something going on there. And I can only assume because it's the number of individuals that never made it off of there physically, right? I remember when the green avocado, the death truck, we used to call it, used to roll around and come get the bodies of the men whose souls had departed on there. It was a very foreboding mood and situation up there. So much so that they would lock us down by 6 p.m. every single time there was someone scheduled to go. And the COs wouldn't even mess with you that day. They wouldn't even barely raise their voice because they probably felt the tension too. It's never comfortable knowing that somebody, regardless of the situation, is here we go. This wasn't something that was scheduled. This is something that was unexpected. We're getting ready to get into the story. Again, this is a level 3. Y'all tell me what you think. Again, what's the worst prison you've been to, worst situation, etc., etc. Put it in the chat, put it in the comments. You know what I'm saying? Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. Let's get into this, man.
A father with ties to Charlottesville is dead. That's what the family of the 42-year-old murdered.
Right off, 42 years old. I'm 42 years old. That hit home. When you go to prison, you expect to make it to your release date, but everybody's not guaranteed. 42 is too early to go. We're getting older, but it's too early to go. And I wonder if he had a release date.
Inmate tells me while the Virginia Department of Corrections has not identified him, his family says Prince Brooks leaves behind a 9-year-old son.
9-year-old son. I'm a first-time dad, man. I got a 2-month-old. First time dad at 42 years old. It's a blessing. I've never been more scared in my life, though, because I don't want to leave him. I want to be here long enough to make sure that he's okay. And my condolences to this gentleman's family. And again, rest in peace. But I want to use this as a talking point, so we understand that when we get involved in certain things in the streets, etc., it doesn't just impact us. It impacts our family, our children, our wives, our mothers, whoever else. And I'm not saying I know this guy's background. I'm just highlighting an overall viewpoint, man. It goes beyond us. And here goes another child without his father, a little boy at that. And you know he needs him. But I'm sure, and my hope and my prayers, that everybody rallies around the young man and he pushes forward, because he deserves that support, especially in times like this. Prisoner or not, you deserve to make it to your release date.
Brooks's death is the 7th since our first story in 2023 raised concerns over staffing, security, and drugs being brought.
7 people have lost their lives since 2023. That's a high number, believe it or not, for the Commonwealth of VA. Again, it highlights an overall point. They're saying security, staffing, and bringing in illegal contraband. Security and staffing have always been issues, and the contraband 9 times out of 10 is coming in through security and staffing, but that's neither here and there, right? Because we're discussing this portion of it. And let me tell you something: shortage of staff alone, right, causes an issue with security, and therefore the prison is not secure, therefore the prisoners are not safe. That's 1 + 1 = 2. Let me hear some more of this.
Into the prison. A source tells me that they are dealing with those issues, and they believe that could have contributed to what they described as a brutal attack that could have possibly been prevented with proper staffing.
Could have been prevented what was described as a brutal attack. It probably could have been prevented, because if there's security, if there's staff, if there's CO on floor, they're going to hear something, especially if it was brutal. I don't care. You're going to hear something, especially at 3 a.m, because there's not that much noise jumping off inside the block. So I would X off could have and maybe put would have, respectfully.
As we first told you on Tuesday, VDOC says it happened just after 3 a.m. They say an inmate was found on top of his cellmate, unresponsive.
Break that down for me. He said an inmate was found on top of his cellmate, unresponsive. What does that mean? What was the scenario? The only thing I can assume, again, is they were attacking one another, and that was what occurred. Maybe an individual was able to, I don't know. I'm trying to in my head, but I know it goes down. 2 cell partners get into it. It is very hard to break that up, because first you got to hear through the noise. But at 3 a.m, the CO can hear banging, screaming, something, kicking, shuffling. He can hear if there was a CO on the floor. So I don't really have to guess at the scenario. The more I think about it, it seems like they got into a physical altercation. Instead, it was a brutal attack. Blah, blah, blah. Unfortunate situation. And also, I wonder if any of them had noted that there were some issues in that cell and had tried to move out. Maybe that needs to be dug into. Was there a request for a cell change prior to all this occurring? Because typically when you got some type of static with your cell partner to that, one or the other guy is trying to get up out of there. You're not trying to go to sleep or fall asleep or whatever, and you in the cell. But then again, sometimes you're totally cool, and then it just goes left. You get into an argument over the toilet, you get over the stinger, whatever it is, and then you don't know who had a release date. You just don't know. You don't know the mindset of an individual that's ready to take it that far. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. I know that we're in a men's prison, Greensville Correctional Center. I was there. We're looking at it on the screen right there. But what happened to the days when the altercations was just, fist fight or something? Now it's to the extreme. And we're seeing more and more people lose their lives all over the country, not just VA, and the jails as well in a lot of places. The jails are just as bad, if not worse, than the prisons nowadays. But this is an unfortunate situation. And seeing this, by the way, gives me flashbacks, the front of that building.
Life-saving measures were taken, and Brooks was transported to a hospital where he was pronounced dead. A source tells us that non-security staff are having to assist with rounds and checking on inmates during the day, but that nights are understaffed and most security posts at the prison have remained vacant.
Do you see the dilemma with that? They said non-security staff has been having to do rounds during the day, which means they're doing a security job, which means they haven't been trained properly to do said job. And then, right, at night, they're even shorter on staff because all the counselors and whoever could fill in and count and grab a clipboard is gone and look in the cells, which they're already doing a bad job because they're not trained, right? At night, they're even shorter. And then they said there's security positions, places where the guards are supposed to be, that have been vacant for a minute now. How long have these positions been vacant that staffs needed or COs are needed to be in? Like, how unsecured are the prisons that we talking about here? Not just the Commonwealth of VA, but the ones where you see the crazy video. How unsecure are our prisons is the question we should be asking, and how many more people would still be here? This is an unfortunate situation. Anybody that sees my stuff, I'm never up here, oh, empathy. No, it's not. We're not asking for the boo-hoos. We just want you to acknowledge the truth. Prison is supposed to be a place where people can get rehabilitated. You cannot get rehabilitated if you don't feel safe and secure in an environment. It doesn't happen. You're stuck in a certain state where you're always on point. And I'm not going to say your guard's ever going to come down in prison, but if there was enough staff to do the job, people could feel secure. There would be less incidences, less occurrences, and individuals could actually do their time, do their programs, and make it home to their son, to their children, to their family. Again, I wonder, because I've been there, what was the process? Did somebody request a cell change? Did they get denied? Did they even get the request form responded to? I can see a whole bunch of different variables from A to Z popping off that could have led to this individual's demise. And I don't know anything that occurred. But I did want to highlight this story again, because if you've got a loved one behind the wall, you got to stay on point for them. You need to encourage them to stay on point. You need to encourage them to stay out of anything that they can so they can get home, because it's only getting worse in there. Y'all, I'm going to continue to respond and react to clips. Y'all let me know what you want me to react to next. This wasn't that long ago. And there's probably another story getting ready to come out tomorrow. And don't get me started on River North. There's some stuff going on there too. So we had 7 gone since 23 in the Commonwealth of VA. Some unnatural. I'm assuming some overdoses. I'm going to look at the numbers. I want to know myself. But at the end of the day, man, it should be more motivation not to go to a place called prison. It should be more motivation to get out the streets. And above all else, it should be more motivation to stay free. Y'all already know what it is, man. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. Way more on the way, man.